this is the fifth and last section of my series on deactive moves. It is about the calculation of variance. So far in the first three sections you have learned to spot deactive moves for yourself, and in the fourth section you hopefully have realized that sometimes you need also to check the active moves of your opponent to be able to decide whether your suggestion is a good one. In chess, you will encounter the issue that sometimes you will need to calculate the variation really deep. That means many moves ahead. And there you will see two different problems. So the first of all, you will need to be able to, imagine the right position that will happen 2 or 3 moves ahead. And if you struggle with that, these are what my blindfold exercises, the whole series number 4, is for. And the second thing is that you will need to be able to spot the important and strong active moves for yourself. 2 moves, maybe 3 moves ahead. So it's not just in the position on the board, check all the active moves, but imagine the position that might happen 2 or 3 moves into the future, and now tell me whether they are interesting active moves for you or for your opponent, and you need to do it to realize whether your attack is working, or maybe if there is a defense from your opponent, or maybe if you blunder something. So this is what these exercises are for. Let's start with the first one. It's white to move. So let's see how you should approach this task. First of all, as always, you go for the checks. This is a check, but black just takes and there is no further continuation. So we can forget it. Then there are the captures. There's only one. Knight takes d2. Well, black will take our knight and there is no further continuation, so we are done. And then we are coming to the threats. Obviously there are some threats like playing rook to a7, but I won't mention it here because we need to go on. And instead I will just mention the move rook to d1, and it is pretty decent move since it protects us from the move d1 queen, and also we will certainly win the pawn on d2. So this move is good, but it just wins us the pawn, and our evaluation should be something around equal. We are certainly a bit ahead, but not enough to win the game. And there's also another threats, for example, knight e5, but that won't do much because of d1 check, so we can forget it. And there's also knight to g5. Knight to g5 does threaten a mate, and this is pretty interesting. The whole goal of the calculation part of variance is that you do indeed try to finish it to the end. So obviously after knight g5, black certainly can and will promote the pawn with a check. So after d1 check, you will have to take it with your rook, queen takes with check, and then you move your king away. As always, if you just stop here and you say, I'm a rook down, I want to play this variant, this sequence, then it's, not the right way to approach chess calculation. Instead, you should imagine the position, and as you maybe did now, and decide whether you are still ahead or not. And now finally I will do it sequence on the board, and you will see the position. It looks like this. We are still threatening a mate, though black can still defend the bishop. This is not the issue. There is still a last active move left to check, and this is the check. Knight takes f7, which is simultaneously a mate, and white wins. Certainly it is no issue for you to spot the mate in this very position. The main issue is that you have to spot this idea 3 moves in advance. So this is what I'm trying, well, to teach you. Let's go to the next position. It's black to move. And here I want to ask you a pretty simple question, and it is, what do you think about the move knight rook to d8? So the last move that white played was d5, by the way, if you haven't noticed. And then, well, is rook d8 a smart reply to it? Well, let's see the answer. And the answer is rook d8 is a bad move. It's a terrible mistake. Simply because you need, well, to check the your calculation. So first of all, you start in this position with the active moves. So do you have a check from white side? And no, there are no checks. So next thing is, how about we capture something? So there is pawn takes e6 and pawn takes c6. Let's start with the stronger one because it wins a piece. So pawn takes c6. Certainly this move you have seen because that was the idea, to pin the pawn. So you take the queen on d2. Now again, it's white to move. And most probably you didn't calculate further in that case if you thought that rook d8 is a good move, or you simply just thought that white has to take the rook, and with that you are just ahead. And if that would be the case, then you are right. But if you check all the active moves, again, there are no checks, and there are certainly 2 different captures, and one of them is certainly better than the other, and this is if we capture the bishop in between and, by the way, attack the queen. So the queen has to take the pawn on b7, and now after knight takes d2 there's actually another threat, but at least black can defend it with knight d5. But still, if you go for the material gains, you lost a rook and 2 minor pieces for the queen, which is technically much better for white, especially with this whole pin that you have on the diagonal. After knight c4 and knight e3 you will actually lose even the pawn, and then it's pretty obvious that black is simply lost. So the idea of playing rook d8 is not a bad one. It certainly has a point, it just doesn't work in this position, so you have, well, to abandon it. And instead you could easily just take on d5, and certainly you don't have any advantage. The position is a bit boring, it's equal, but it's better than simply losing it. Final position, it's white to move here, and my question is pretty simple. So this is the starting position and everything is fine, but what do you consider playing d6 and sacrificing your queen in this position? Now the answer, d6 might come up with as an interesting point, with after rook takes, you play d7, and then you might argue that you're threatening a backrank mate. Black cannot play rook to e8, and, well, you might wonder whether it is simply winning. The move that you might have missed is queen to f8, since it simply is not, a backrank mate. Also, just moving the rook back is enough, and then queen to f8. So this is the mistake that you might have done in this position. And let's say after queen f8, for example, if you take on e3, then black just guards the pawn and can even sacrifice the queen back for it. And if you take another queen, then all you did was just to sacrifice your queen, to get another queen, you lose a pawn on the way, the one that was promoted, and in the end black can even take the pawn on c3. So in the end, you had a point if you did consider playing d6, but it isn't working if because of queen to f8. And by the way, white's position is hugely better because of this passed pawn. So all you need to do is, for example, to play queen to b6 and then d6, d7, d8, and the position is, well, almost won already.